Folks, hello and welcome back to the Naren Agarwal Show. If you care about productivity, getting things done, and running on a superhuman level when it comes to your organizations, you've got the right episode. With me, I have Arif Wakil. Now, Arif is somebody who introduced David Allen's method of GTD, getting things done, to India. He brought that method to India and he works as a master coach, training so many people with that. Not only that, he's the director of Wakil Housing Development Corp in Bangalore. They've built very famous buildings and real estate in Bangalore, including the Wakil Square. He's the co-founder and director of Sufi Studios, the company that creates awesome Sufi-themed magazines and comics. And he is also the managing trustee at ILM Montessori. Lastly, he knows the secrets of how to run an organization in the 21st century in a very unique, different way, using something called Holacracy. If you've never heard of it, stay tuned to the episode because lots to learn. Arif, welcome to the show.
My pleasure, Naren. Thank you so much for the glorious and generous introduction.
Let me wipe that sweat off my forehead because you have such a long intro. I was worried, like, I don't want to miss anything, Wow. Arif, I don't know where to begin with, but I guess I want to dive into first asking you so many things you're doing. You're building a Montessori, which goes up all the way to grade 6 middle school in the Montessori method. You are working on a new company, Finishers Club, to get productivity and coaching for people who want to finish and get things done. And you're also running Get Things Done. On top of that, you have other businesses. How do you manage all this all at the same time and manage to make everything grow?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And of course, indeed, all of these methodologies that I practice and endorse and propose and propagate help a lot. GTD helps immensely. Holacracy helps immensely. The Finishers Club help immensely. And these things that work so well are indeed a bedrock of that helps to get things done, get organized, and have systems in place so things move smoothly while keeping things dynamic and organic. But it's not only that. Behind it, there are my family members. My dad's there and my brother's there that help the things running smoothly. Dad set up the real estate business, so that helped keep things chugging along. So it's a combination of a great team and a combination of good practices and methodology that keep things running smoothly till there's a problem.
Till there's a problem. But I'm for sure there has to be a method to the madness, right? There is certain methodology that you're using, which I also learned from you, the GTD method, and I want to delve deeper into that. But before that, how did you stumble upon the GTD method and how did you manage to bring it to India?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. That's a brilliant question. And I'm so grateful that I did come across it when I did. And I had the honor and opportunity to introduce it to so many people. I joined my father's business in the early 2000s, the real estate business. And when I joined the real estate business, I remember things were hectic, things were chaotic. This was in the heydays of real estate when real estate was booming, and wanted to bring some sort of system, stability, structure to things that were happening around me. And that's when I started searching online. It was, I had just taken over Dad's HR function, and my desk was piled high with paper. Some of resumes that I had of people I had to interview. Some resumes were interviewed. I didn't know who was what, which paper, what was each paper meaning to. I needed a place to just clear that desk so I could think. And I didn't have a filing system in place. And these were all individual resumes. So how do I file them? What do they belong to? I needed some basic structure to start. So I did a Google search. How do I file? How do I get my desk in control? How do I get my desk in order? And no matter where I would search, there was some reference to, I do a GTD using this method. I use a GTD using that method. This term GTD kept coming up in different solutions. Then I searched, what is GTD? And I was taken to this David Allen website, very, very old version of the website. And there was a video, which was very clever of David, because at that time, there were very few videos online. I'm talking early 2000s. I played that video, and there was this excited man, full of energy, dressed in a suit, but yet bouncing all over the screen, saying, apply these 5 steps, apply these 5 steps, apply these 5 steps, and you can get anything under control. You can get your desk in control. You can get your department in control. You can get your whole life in control. I said, wow, man. And he's so confident. He looks so calm, relaxed, and energetic. So I want some of that.
Right.
And yeah, that's what introduced me to GTD. And step by step, I applied it. I tried it out. It worked just like that. And I said, oh, this is so powerful. I must get everyone in my office trained in this. So I got my brother trained in it. Then me and my brother, we pestered dad. We contacted David Allen Company. We got one of their trainers around. They trained our organization. We got trained to be trainers way back in 2006, 2007. And yes, since then, we've got the license to train everyone in India who's interested to learn more about GTD.
Wow.
So long
You're the
answer.
master
I hope
trainer
that
and coach here.
that's right. So we offer both services. As a master trainer, I can train other trainers if those who are interested to be a trainer themselves. That's an option. Or someone prefers one-on-one coaching. So we offer those services as well. Said, hey, I just want one-on-one. So we can, we teach you this methodology one-on-one. And I've coached some very senior people in this country.
Wow. And I really love the name that you selected for the company that does it. It's called Calm Achiever. You know, you can be calm and achieve at the same time. It doesn't have to contradict each other.
Yeah. No, it's a reflection of what David says. You know, what makes GTD different is not just about productivity. It's not just about getting things done, but how can you get things done in a stress-free manner? How can you achieve stress-free productivity? How can you achieve Zen-like productivity, where you're clear, you're present, yet you're getting stuff done? And that's what makes GTD different. And yeah, that's what inspired the name, which actually Dad selected. Said, you guys are calm achievers. Go for that. Call yourself that. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. What's the name of your father?
My dad's name, Mohsen Ali Wakil, but people just call him Mr. Wakil.
Mr. Wakil. Okay, Mr. Wakil. Thanks to Mr. Wakil, a good name for your company. So Arif, what is GTD? Because we've covered a little bit about it, and some people who are hearing this, they're wondering probably, what is GTD?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it definitely deserves its space. GTD stands for Getting Things Done. It's a book, it's a methodology, it's a set of best practices that David Allen, the productivity guru, through his years of experience, put together. What do these best practices help you do? By following these practices, you can get from a state of chaos, overwhelm, anxiety. Apply these best practices and you get into a state of control, focus, relaxed, and you're meaningfully engaged doing the most important thing that's to you without any attention to anything else. That's what GTD is all about.
Wow, that's real powerful. And I had my own methodology of productivity, and I went through the training with you, learning the GTD methodology, and I've been able to like fuse both of them. And right now, I can't tell you how I feel because I think I already had a very good productivity schedule and the way to do things, but GTD just added a whole another fuel to it, and I feel like I'm on a rocket right now. Thanks to you.
Yeah. There's something about this that no matter how fast you are going, that it fine tunes your already current best practices to ultimate supreme practices. Because whenever I coach people or train people, people say, look, I'm already doing this, but I realize now that, oh, this gap is there. And now I fix that gap. And that gap, it's like it's plugging a hole in your fuel tank. And you're constantly losing fuel and you didn't even didn't know it was there. And all of a sudden there's a boost and you're speeding along. And that may be for something that you really want to do, or maybe just when you want to relax and you didn't even realize you weren't able to relaxing well. You will sleep better once you practice GTD. You will enjoy your vacations more when you're practicing GTD. You will be totally present with your friends and family when you're practicing GTD. So whether it's work or whether it's chilling, everything gets an uplift when you practice GTD.
Wow. For those listening right now, they're like, okay, tell me something that I can do, like from the GTD methodology. Like, I'm very curious, or tell me something basic, at least one point. So, what is something
Yeah,
that you would like to share with them?
yeah. Now that's the challenge about GTD, which we talked about pre-interview. That how can I even put it in a nutshell? And I will, but realize that don't go listening to the nutshell, thinking that I've got it. This is it. There are so many depths and levels and layers to it. After practicing it for almost 15 years, maybe for more than 15 years, I still feel, oh my gosh, I'm still learning into it. But perhaps the heart of it is to truly practicing GTD means practicing from a space when you've got nothing on your mind, just the task in front of you. Now, how can you achieve that? Well, you could achieve that maybe through intense meditation, Zen-like focus, going to a mountaintop and just going all the time. You might be able to do it, but that's really, really hard. So is there another way? There is. And it's the set of 5 best practices which you're doing, which is that as soon as something comes into your head, get it out, 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 out. Now that it's out, how do you keep it out? Well, you clarify what it means, put it into a place that you trust, and that's the hard work done. And then when the opportunity comes, you keep looking at it, reflect, and then you simply do. And that's what it's in a nutshell in terms of practices. So what can you do? Make sure you have something always with you that can get stuff out of your head. It might be a pocket notepad. It might be an app on your phone. And make sure that as soon as something comes into your head, you put it there to clarify and process it later.
Wow. I think this is so powerful, putting things as soon as it comes to your head. We don't have tools around us to capture things, whatever's coming
Yeah.
at us. And hence we keep roaming around with a lot of like these flies in our head, like, buzzing thoughts. It's not like we take a fly and put it in the jar. And I think that capture just like, puts the fly in the jar, it helps your mind settle. So I think that's a
Yeah,
solid
and
practice that you shared.
imagine, imagine if a fly was buzzing around you. Would you be able to focus on work? You can't. You constantly shut up, get out of here, get out of this and there. Now imagine you've got hundreds of those in your head. How will you be able to focus?
That's so true.
Mhm.
Wow. GTD. Guys, if you are interested, check out GTD. I recommend it because I started practicing it. So powerful. I was like, Arif, we got to do a podcast. I want to tell people about this. Arif, now moving on to Finishers Club. Tell me about this. What is the Finishers Club? And I briefly heard from you, but I don't even know much about it. I checked out the website, but you
Yeah.
came up with this idea. And what is this idea about?
This is to the idea of the Finishers Club actually came from a GTD coaching client. I coached a client for 2 days, and at the end of 2 whole days, the client said, Arif, this is brilliant. This just changed my life. You've got everything, helped me get everything out of my head. You put it in lists in front of me. And now I've got a clear view of what I need to do, what's not done, and what needs to get done. But Arif, now the challenge starts because tomorrow you'll be gone. And now I have to sit and do everything from this list. You know what, Arif, what I want you to do? I want you to keep a copy of my list with you. And I want you to have a call with me every week and check, hey, how are your lists going? What have you been able to get done? What did you not get done? That will keep me on. I mean, my God, I told the client, this is brilliant. That's exactly what I need for myself.
Nice.
So it helps the added level of somebody to reflect your tasks with, somebody to help you, just to talk out that, look, somebody to ask me that, what's the most important thing you need to do get done this week, Arif? And for me to think and to articulate that and to put that across, it's a very powerful weekly ritual that makes sure that I'm staying focused on the most important and meaningful thing week after week. And together with, as long as I'm doing that and I'm clear on what I will want to achieve at the end of the year, I've been having some sort of ritual for of the Finishers Club for 2.5 years. And while I was pretty much on top of my game, because that's what I do, I my game went up so much higher because now week after week I am sure I am on that. I better get this done, and this is the path that will take me to achieve my annual goal.
Wow.
So that, in a nutshell, is what the Finishers Club is about.
So is this like a group that gets together? Is this somebody who keeps you accountable every week and gets in conversation with you? Is this somebody who helps you maintain GTD or other things as well?
It's not a group. This is one-on-one coaching.
Okay.
It's one-on-one weekly coaching with one of our coaches who makes sure that you stay on, you stay focused on what's the most important thing to you during the whole week. And clients who try it out, he said, "Oh my God, they're just hooked and addicted." I said, "Where has this been all my life?"
Wow. And so this is not necessarily only about continuing the GTD process, but it's also about you getting a sense of priority, committing to somebody, and them holding you accountable in some way, right?
That's exactly what it is. That's right. It's just getting clarity on, just externalizing your thoughts. The fact that you get to externalize it, it's a different experience versus you think, okay, this is important. When you actually bring it out, one level of externalizing, you can write it down for yourself. But there is the different parts of your brain get connected. The different parts of your consciousness gets connected when you have to share it with someone. And when you actually do that, and there is a deeper commitment now that, hey, for Naren, if I ask you, what are the three most important things you need to get done next week? Tell me. And you actually think and you say, I get this done. All right. When are you going to do it, Naren? Tell me. And say, I am going to do it. Now we have got a deeper commitment there. On Monday, 3 o'clock. On Wednesday, 4 o'clock. On Friday morning, I'm going to make sure that I get my walk done. I put that down onto your calendar. And then on those days, my team will text you, remind you, hey, this is the commitment that you've had. And at the end of the week, we're going to talk about it. How high your level and your commitment will be to make sure that that thing happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. That's really powerful. Yeah. I think I follow a system like that for myself, but I can imagine what it does if somebody else is holding you accountable. You remind me of a powerful statement by Jordan Peterson, quite a famous strategist. And he says, we are able to organize our thoughts when we speak. When we speak, we organize our thoughts. There's so many thoughts, but when we speak, we actually organize them. And maybe reflecting that, bouncing that back with somebody helps you organize the tasks in your head and then choose what you want to prioritize.
Yeah, absolutely. David says this quite often. The first step of writing down is just of writing anything or getting clear is to make sure that that is out. It's what the capture process is all about. And that's for capture, but that's even if it's just to articulate a piece or something like that, or a piece of writing. Yeah. But just get it out.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because so far, if you look at it, most people, if you ask them or talk to them about writing or capturing something, it's usually just seen as a record-keeping process. But what's unique about GTD and what you were speaking is it's also seen as a mental clarity process, which is very different from what we're usually taught or see writing as. We see writing as a record-keeping process, but here we're using it as a whole different tool to clarify and to mentally clear the clutter and to organize the mind using the tool of writing, which is powerful.
I love that difference, Naren. I love that difference. True. We've been taught as saying that, all right, yes, it's more of for things that you want to keep to store as reference, this thing that keep this as reference, rather than as a tool and a process to get clear on what you want to do for yourself, or just to get clear. And people do that intuitively a little bit when there is so much clutter and there's so much noise, and they can't bear it anymore. They write some of it down, but when they write some of it, they just stop there. Okay, I've got enough. I feel good. I feel good enough to move forward. And again, what David says that, if they just didn't stop, if they kept writing it, didn't stop at feel good enough, but I want to feel great. I want to feel better. I want to feel like have a mind like water. And they just kept going. It would have transformed that person's experience altogether.
just to add on to that, so personally, one of my interests is meditation and spirituality. I spent a cumulative of over 1 year in different ashrams around the world,
Beautiful.
and one important in some areas spiritual practice is actually journaling and writing.
Hmm.
Getting your emotions out and getting your mental thoughts out and putting it on paper. And then some of them also allow you to ask you to burn it. Right? You might have heard of such things. So it's about, again, like you said, externalizing and letting go so that you are free from all the clutter that's going on.
Phenomenal. Did you try that out? Did you do it?
I have done it. I have done some extensive writing, like
Mm.
literally like books and pages
Wow.
at some phases. And, as I kept going, I felt lighter. And then all of a sudden it built up and then I kept going. And since then, I've also tried to establish this night journaling practice. Um, So not every day do I do it,
Mm.
but some days when I don't have clarity, I sit down and write my night journal. And there's certain categories. How am I feeling in my body? How am I feeling in my mind? How am I feeling in my
Yeah.
emotions? And how am I feeling
Wow.
in my energy? So it's a pretty cool practice that I learned, and it helps me a lot.
Very deep, very powerful. Yeah. Glad to hear that. Mm.
Arif,
Yeah.
GTD Finishers Club. I
Yeah.
want to get to the most interesting topic for me right now because
Yeah.
I don't know much about this at all. I've seen one TED
Yeah.
talk,
Yeah.
Holacracy. And honestly,
Yeah.
when I saw the TED talk, part of it went over my head because I
Sure.
understood the concept. I was like, how is this actually going to be implemented in, an organization? So firstly,
Yeah.
for those who are listening about this word for the first time, holacracy. What is holacracy?
Right. No, that's a very good question. What is holacracy? So, holacracy is a self-organization managing system. What does that mean? So, Holacracy was founded by this another very intelligent, brilliant person, young person. His name is Brian Robertson. He was a GTD practitioner. So, Holacracy is founded on it's three methodologies, three practices put together, which is GTD, Sociocracy, and agile. So the story of Holacracy goes like this. Brian Robertson was an employee in a company, and he found the company to be highly systemic, bureaucratic. Whenever he wanted to get anything done, any change done, he found it so difficult to change an obvious problem he could see or make most of an obvious opportunity that he wanted to make the most of. If he would go higher up to his bosses would be inundated with so many other things. They say, please take a number and wait in line to see me. And that got him so frustrated. He said, look, I cannot work in such an organization. I'm going to start an organization of my own. I'm going to start my own organization where there will be so much freedom that people can do whatever change that they want, and things would it'll be the best company to work in the world. And when Brian started his own company, he found himself putting the same rules, systems, and processes in place that stop people from making change, and for good reason.
Right.
And he was stuck with this problem that how do I solve this? What are the systems that I can have in place? What are the processes I can place? How can I have a methodology or a meta system so that if there is anything that anybody sees that can help the organization by removing a problem or by making most of our opportunity, they can do it without causing ruffles, without causing troubles, without causing tensions within the company. And if it does cause ruffles, problems, or tensions, there is a system or process to solve it. So he started experimenting with some best practices, borrowing from GTD, Holacracy, and Sociocracy, and eventually he came up with a system called Holacracy.
Wait, so GTD, Sociocracy, and agile?
Agile.
Okay. These three were combined, fused, and he formed Holacracy.
He formed Holacracy. So whenever people work together, there are bound to each one will sense a tension or an opportunity. They will have something just like in GTD, have something on your mind. There will be something in their organizational mind, as in the role of their organization. I can see something that I can in purchase. If I apply this system, I'll be able to get a better deal for the company. I work in construction. If I apply this methodology, we'll be able to construct so much faster. But I need to check with my manager. But I need to check with my foreman. What do I do? And the manager foreman would like the idea, but they've got their own problems to deal with. So they don't have the bandwidth to do it. So how can you make a system, a process so that that is addressed, so that people are able to move faster and make change faster towards the purpose of, to fulfill the purpose of the organization or of the department or of that role.
Wow.
So you've got this thing in your mind. How do you do that? So Holacracy is that system that once applied gets you to be able to make the change as fast as possible. And if there are tensions in the way, there is a system to address that.
Wow. This sounds like,
Isn't
almost like
something?
too good to be true. You know,
Yeah.
and we're so used to you thinking about the one track system, like get approvals from your senior and then get it done, get approvals, get it done,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tough to imagine this. Quick question. What is, in short, what is agile and what is sociocracy? Because I've heard sociocracy. A friend of mine, she
Right.
works in Brazil, and she said, her company runs the sociocracy method. And when she told me this, I was very fascinated, but this was some months ago. So what is agile
Right.
and sociocracy in a
Right. Right. Sure. I'm not an expert on either. It's been a while since I visited both the terms. So agile is a way. The term agile comes mostly from in the software world, though I believe it can be applied outside the software world. The traditional method of software development, I believe, was the watered down system, where you take its scope from client and you build a product, deliver it, and you take 2 to 3 months to do it, or maybe 6 months, depending on how long it takes. And once you go to the client is, okay, this works, this doesn't work. And then you go back and then you fix it and then you build another version.
Correct.
So it's more of a watered down or a waterfall system. I forget the term. That was the traditional way to do it. The problem was the world was moving so fast that by the time they went to the product, to the client, their world had changed. And they said, look, this is obsolete right now. So there was a different methodology, a different form to develop software. And that was agile, where you build the minimum viable product, present that to the client. And okay, and if this solves the immediate problems, run with it. Tell us the other immediate things, and then it is constantly being in beta. So it's shipping fast, taking feedback faster, rolling with it, and developing sooner. And that's what Holacracy adopted. So you don't go with a whole host of problems to your manager, and the manager will sit and discuss, have a meeting with his manager. Look, we need to bring these systems. Who will need to sit with the owner, and then you make a decision. By the time you do it, the problem has become worse or the opportunity has gone. How can you make a system so that you change fast? You change the structure fast, you change systems fast, you change processes fast, and go for the minimum level of approvals.
Wow.
So that's the bit that was taken from, that's what agile is. And that's the bit that was taken from agile. The bit that was taken from sociocracy was the actual structure. We are used to traditional top-down structure that there is the CEO or there's a board of a hierarchy model, and that's how power is organized. Sociocracy and Holacracy has a different way of organizing power. Power is not centered along the traditional hierarchical way, but power is centered on the purpose of the organization and within certain roles. Power is more evenly distributed along certain guidelines and criteria. So that's the bit that was taken from sociocracy. And the Holacracy, the Holacracy is run based on, there are certain articles of a constitution that suggest that this is how we suggest is the best practice to run a holacratic organization. One of the best practices, we expect all members of the organization to be clear on what their actions and projects are and to be transparent about it. So there is a lot of GTD in Holacracy. Whenever you have meetings, you don't end a meeting without saying, okay, what's the action over here? What's the project over here?
Nice.
just like in GTD, we ask the question, what has your attention? In Holacracy, the question we ask, well, we start a meeting by saying, what are your tensions? You have any tension whatsoever? See, put it down in one or two words. Just it's like a mind sweep for the organization rather than an individual mind sweep.
Wow. Wow. This sounds very crazy. Here's my question. So if somebody, let's say they own the private limited company or an LLP and they are the share owners, how does that play with holacracy? Because traditionally, if you are the owner, a lot of power is centered to you in an organization.
Right.
But if you still own the shares of the company, how does the power get spread among roles?
Right. Okay, so now applying holacracy is quite a long journey. And the power shift that happens from the owner to the constitution is one of the later shifts. So a very big point I want to make sure that everyone listening to the podcast goes, do not think that I have to do a power shift to apply holacracy. You can apply a whole lot of best practices of holacracy without this power shift. So that's one. So don't think you have to do it. Number one. Number two, how does a power shift happen? It's not that in holacracy that the owners or the shareholders will have less power. You will continue to have the power that you have. However, it's all the other roles in the organization will have more power, which they did not have before, and which they need to be able to solve the tensions for the organization.
Yep.
And how and what that power will be, as long as that power is serving the purpose of the organization. You don't want any, right now they don't have enough that's serving the purpose. That's why you need to provide them with more power. And you are there, the roles are there to ensure that you don't have anything, you don't do anything that will hurt the organization. Yeah. So all those checks and balances are there. How does it happen? What happens is whoever currently holds the power in the organization will say, I now give the power to the constitution of the organization. And my power will now come from the constitution.
It's almost sounds like, how the world was run. Like there were a bunch of kings and queens running countries and dictatorships. And not all dictatorships are bad. Like look at UAE. It's a great dictatorship, Technically, it's a dictatorship. But, there were dictatorship, and the model of power shift, we came to democracy where the power was given to constitution. It almost seems like the similar thing for a private organization.
There are a lot of similarities to that. And yeah, the description that he gave is precisely the description that that Brian gives, that, there were kings and the barons, and then there were the serfs, or the plebs, or the servants. And nothing wrong with that, if that's the way you want to run an organization. But that perhaps worked in a model where the world was not changing so rapidly, but there was not so much inputs, and you had to make decisions and change process on the go. And it's not, at least for me, it's not really possible for me to be that Superman or be that hero in the organization, to be there at every meeting and give that decision. I have to empower others to make that decision. What are the safeguards that I can do so that I'm comfortable that we are moving towards our purpose? Holacracy gives that framework where I can give that comfortably and put those safeguards in place.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Another question that comes to my mind is, what if somebody abuses the power? And I'm sure it must have happened in organizations running with Holacracy, or maybe in your organization.
Sure.
So what is a check and balance if somebody, let's say, you had given them a power to execute certain actions, or if there's a specific example that you have, that'd be really good to learn.
Yeah. Just this example is very similar to, right now you seem quite excited about Holacracy. Yeah. You seem excited about it because you sense a gap, you sense a tension that, I can see how this will be beneficial to me. And why? It may be because I can see some people who could be doing something, who could be more empowered in their role, that not. And I sense that gap and tension, and I would like to do something about it. So Because you sense the gap, you sense a tension, there is something you can do about it. And there will be something that you can do about it. And the same is true vice versa. If you sense a gap, oh my gosh, there's something that's not happening. I sense a tension. And then there is a process for that the Holacracy will address. However, the problem or the challenge that you are bringing up, what if somebody abuses their power? What if somebody oversteps their power? That is not a challenge or a problem that we see frequently in Holacracy. In fact, I have not seen that in Holacracy as of yet in all my years of implementation. Excuse me. The bigger challenge that we have is people to step into their power. Look, you have now the freedom, do it. They say, no. I rather prefer you tell me what to do. So it's not really a huge valid concern. People say, no, it's rather you tell me what to do and I will show up and I will do that. Oh, this is too much responsibility for me to think and to to do what I need to do.
Yeah.
But even if there are the whole model is based around that soon as you see something that's not going wrong, that you're going wrong in the organization, as soon as you see it, somebody not taking up enough initiative, somebody taking too much initiative, I see a problem, I see an opportunity, there's a gap, there's a tension. As soon as you see that, there's a tension. Put it through the system, put it through the process. It's just like GTD, you have something in your attention, put it through the system process, and boom, it's solved.
I see. I can kind of get a sense of what you mean now. There's a whole process and system to address these organizational tensions and how to flow them and how to, it's like a self-checking method on how to keep improving. It's almost like Kaizen for your organization.
It's this process is there, which is Kaizen, which is constantly moving towards self-improvement. What is that improvement? You define what is the purpose of the organization, and that's what will move towards.
Wow, that's amazing. So if somebody in India or somebody somewhere else wants to implement Holacracy, how can they implement it in their organization?
Sure. There are many ways to go about it. At the first beginning, you can order Brian's book, Holacracy, and you can read that and learn about Holacracy. It's a brilliant read and a very easy read. Listen to Brian's TED Talk. Like I said, you'll get a sense of it, but you'll not know enough. You'll need to learn more. You can approach Calm Achiever. We can do a workshop for your organization to give you a taste of what Holacracy is like, and that will give you enough to get started. And then there are different levels of workshops, certifications that are available via Holacracy One, and you can go to Holacracy One and you can get a taste and experience of that. You can get deeper into the methodology with Holacracy One.
Wow, this is awesome. If I would ask you, Arif, what are the top benefits that you saw in your organization when you implement Holacracy? And are like almost all your organizations running on Holacracy?
All our organizations are running at some level of Holacracy. In fact, even my family runs at some level of Holacracy.
Very interesting.
I don't. I find it very difficult. I can't. As soon as you get an organization, now it's so much part of my blood. It just filters down. Look, it's how we're going to do things. So there are different levels. At some level, I'm always practicing it.
And so what's the benefit that you saw?
There are a number of benefits that you saw. I think the first few, I think the most radical that comes to, what comes to mind is there is absolute clarity for any individual in the organization, what are the different roles that the person fills in the organization, what are the different accountabilities that I depend upon that person or depend on those roles which are empowered by that person, and what are the domains that the person is handling. And these roles, accountabilities are changing because the world around us is changing. COVID is a very big example. COVID came and we had to shuffle around roles. Because of Holacracy, it was so easy to do that. Okay, you drop this role, you do it. You drop this accountability, you do that. And we all did that in just one short meeting. And I didn't have to do it myself. That I had to take and do it. All right, you do this, you do this, you do this, master. The process did it. And I was just an overseer to make sure that, we don't drop any ball that we are juggling. So there is absolute clarity. on the roles and accountabilities. Changing those roles and accountabilities is very easy. There, there was an instance that somebody in our organization had to move on, and somebody had to move on. There's always stress and worry. Oh my gosh, this person moving on. I don't know what all that we're losing. But thanks to Holacracy, the roles and accountabilities were clear. Thanks to Holacracy offers Glassfrog, all these roles and accountabilities are, are, are in display in that tool. And because of that, all right, a new person had to come. All right, these are the different roles that this person is doing. Which of these you can fulfill, which you can't. All right, we pass that into the organization. So transition becomes extremely easy. And number three, once you attend a meeting conducted Holacracy standards, attending any other meeting seems like you're sitting on a table with barbarians. It's you'll never realize, my God, how much like cavemen we were talking and discussing of points versus how civilized a meeting can be.
Wow, that's powerful.
Mm.
Have you heard of the 6 thinking hats, like the way of conducting a meeting? Does that play anywhere in Holacracy?
No. I've heard of 6 thinking hats, and I've heard Edward de Bono's model, but that's more for brainstorming and coming up with ideas and making sure that. And you can, Holacracy is not opposed to that. You can bring that into the Holacracy matter. Oh, we need a brainstorming session, and we're going to apply the 6 thinking hats as well. So Holacracy is not opposed to that or against that, but you can very much include that.
Cool. Because you said how to conduct meetings, and I thought that was a very powerful way to conduct meetings. Probably the most evolved method of conducting a meeting that I have come across so far. Because I've not involved in the Holacracy. But yeah, you're right. It's more about ideation and getting everybody on the same.
That's right. Yeah, this is the Holacracy meetings are the 2 meetings, which Holacracy at least 2. At one is one is what we call a tactical meeting, how you deal with everyday tactical operational issues, tactical operational tensions, things that have not happened that needs to happen, things that you need information on you've not got, things that you need to give information on. How do you make sure that all that comes through the system and there's a safety net for all of that? That's the one sort of meeting, it's the tactical meeting. The second sort of meeting is what you mentioned earlier, that somebody needs more power, some role needs more power, some role needs less power, some role needs more control, some less control. How do you do that? How do you make sure that the organization has the right structure? So that's what we call a governance meeting, where the governance of the organization is changed. So those are the 2 meetings that Holacracy espouses. And of course, within that, you can still have brainstorming meetings. You can have 6 thinking hat meetings. You can have a meeting along. GTD has the national planning model, which we employ a lot. You can have yearly reviews, mid-yearly reviews. So all that still continues.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Wow. Thank you for sharing it. Like, it's quite exciting to hear about a whole new method of running an organization. And how does this translate into home? I'm curious. And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs are listening to this. It's something that they want, right? They want to create a better sense of balance between work, family, and they want to also see how they can operate and evolve their family life. So what is something, how does Holacracy look at in the home? Like some examples, or how does it come into the home?
I've been doing Holacracy for home for, I think, 6 years. It feels like that, easily 6 years. And it's my daughter who runs the meeting.
How old is your daughter?
And now she's 13, so she was doing since she was 6 or 7 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so okay, so how does it run its home and how to go about it? So first, to go about it, I would not immediately start at home. I would get the feel of it by running it within one team within your organization. And once you get to taste the flavor of it, and once you become a part of it, you can't help but run it in your home. It'll be a natural progression to run a Holacracy meeting within your homes, not just within your homes, within any team that you're part of. Just like GTD, once you get a taste of GTD and you're hooked to it, every interaction that you have and you sense that there's a gap over there, you will want to bring GTD into that interaction with the team member that you're working with. And just home is yet another organization where People have different roles. People have different accountabilities. You expect different things from your spouse, from your children. Your children expect different things from you. And in the expectations, there are gaps, there are tensions. So how do you fulfill those gaps and tensions? Let's have a meeting. You have tactical meetings, you have governance meetings. All right. I expected these things to happen. It didn't happen. Do I expect an action from it? Do I expect a project? Is there information I need to share which I did not share? Here it is. The expectation that you're expecting that you did not get. So here is that information. So once you do that, tension gone. That's one time. Now, how do we make sure that that tension is resolved constantly? Well, from now on, I have this expectation from you, that I expect you to do this on an ongoing basis. Can you do that? I can, but this. All right. How do we solve that? I get the expectation and resolve that but. You put it through the process and we come to a reasonable solution for some time.
That's pretty cool. Now, is there a systemic meeting in Holacracy, or is it as per need basis? Or is there like a systemic, like weekly, monthly kind of format that Holacracy follows in your organization or anywhere else?
There is a systemic meeting. To start with, Holacracy recommends that you stop all your current meetings. Stop all your meetings and only have a tactical meeting once a week and governance meeting once in 2 weeks. So you reduce your meeting time drastically, and whatever meeting time you will have will be like uber efficient. It'll be like and because you stop all your meetings, you'll have a lot of tensions, and you bring all those tensions into the tactical meeting, governance meeting, and use the Holacratic process to resolve it.
It's like one place to capture and
and clarify and organize happens at these meetings.
Wow, that's powerful. Arif, thank you so much for being part of the show. I think we had a very deep conversation about Holacracy, and glad we got a taste and some insights about GTD and Finishers Club. Lastly, a little bit about the famous comics that you came up with that come up, and your interest in Sufism spirituality. Please share that with us.
Thank you so much for asking that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Spirituality and Sufism is a deep, deep, deep part of my life. Eventually we've come from God and we've got to return to our Creator. We are not just body, we are body and soul. So we constantly need practices to nourish our soul, to refine our soul, and to find to connect with the all supreme being. So Sufi comics are me and my brother. When I was growing up in Dubai, we studied at a madrasa. So we studied a whole lot of stories from Islamic traditions. Wow. And we grew up reading comics. Dad used to work in India, and when he would come back from India, he would bring Tinkle and Amachita Katha comics that hugely influenced us. And they were such deep, beautiful comics, with such beautiful moral values in there, which also shaped us. And we said, let's bring these stories into comics like Tinkle and Amachita Katha, which can bring these beautiful values to everyone. So these comics are they're for people of all faiths, and people of all faiths read this and say, like, oh, these are so beautiful. And these remind us of all values that we all agree with, that we all find in common, and that connect us to each other and to our Creator. So till date, we have come up with, I think, 5 books now, and Ali is working on a 6th book. So 40 Sufi Comics Volume 1 is our first book, and the art in that book has all been done by my brother Ali, where we have taken these stories and put them into graphic form. Second book is The Wiseful of Baghdad, which is all tales of a particular individual. His name is, popular literature's name is Bahlul. Book 3 and book 4 we have taken poems of the great Sufi poet Rumi. And we've made some of select poems into a graphic form. Book 5 is volume 2 of 40 Sufi comics. where, yeah, there are a variety of artists. I've drawn a few of the comics in 40 Sufi Comics Volume 2. And Ali is working on book 5 right now, which is he's calling Sufi Lines. So that will be released in, I think, probably in October, November.
Wow. And is this for like all age groups, or is there a specific age group that it's most meant for?
No, it's for all age groups. Just like I like to compare it to a good Disney or a Pixar movie,
Yeah.
that the whole family can sit in front of enjoy. So it is something that while reading to your children, something that they will pick up, and you will pick something from it that it is more the higher meanings and the deeper meanings that's there. These poems of Rumi, they are at all levels. So
I mean, I don't think there's ever been a time when I've come across a quote or a poem by Rumi, and I've not had to take like 2, 3, 5 minutes to just sit and reflect on what I just read, because it's so deep. Um, Simple lines, like lines like "meet me beyond the place of right and wrong." Such
yeah,
simple lines, but so deep.
hmm,
I think honestly, the world needs to hear more of Rumi.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, he was truly a master. Uh, don't think you are so small. You are the universe. You are the universe in ecstatic motion.
And science is actually proving that today, like
Mm,
scientifically, right? We're actually made
mm,
out of stardust, and we are
mm,
in static motion. Uh,
mm.
but for him to know and say that
Yeah,
back today.
yeah, yeah. That's at a physical level and at a spiritual level as well. You've got the universe inside of you.
Wow.
So yeah. So to reflect on that, to actually feel that, and once you actually feel it, to wake up from that and then live like that and make decisions in that manner, and to connect with each other with that experience, you enter a different realm. Mm, mm, mm.
That's phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that line. And for those who are listening, maybe take a minute to just reflect on that line that Arif just shared. I just took a second, closed my eyes too. Wow, we are the universe in static motion. Phenomenal. And one thing to add, as my Chinese Qigong professor in college, she used to teach us Qigong, and she said, you are the center of the universe, actually, because the universe is
Mm,
ever expanding, and you don't even know where it begins and it ends. And you are actually the center of the universe. You know, so that
yeah,
was also a
yeah,
crazy
yeah.
one.
Mm, mm, mm,
Nice. Arif, what
yeah,
a pleasure having a
yeah,
chat with you.
yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
for taking out time from your busy schedule and dedicating your focus, energy, attention towards this conversation and sharing the most that you could through all your answers. Such a pleasure
Yeah.
talking to you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much for the chance, Naren. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed this as much. We got to explore some really fun, go into some really fun areas and have a good time.
Thanks, Arif. Folks, hope
Pleasure.
you enjoyed the show. See you in the next episode.